Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about what is the QC tool. Based on your information, QC tool are the mean for the collecting data, analyzing the data, identify the root cause, and measuring our result. Usually it will be used in the organization as it helps us to monitor and manage our quality initiative. Mostly the QC tool will rely on the numeric data like the histogram, the Pareto diagram, the control chart, scatter diagram, check sheet. Those graph or those diagram is mostly depends on the numeric data, and it also very easy for us to understand. Somehow we just have to observe the changes inside the graph, and then we know what's going to happen, and we can find the reason or find the main root from the graph and also the diagram. At the same time, it also no need any complex analytical, like it usually doesn't need any formal training in statistics, and because they can be used to solve the vast majority of the quality related issue. So it's based on a very easy concept, like we find the problem, we know where's the problem, and we get to know the solution. So if we get to know the solution, so we can solve the problem. That's a very easy concept. The first tool I will be explain is the process flow diagram. It used to help us to document the work process flow, like from the starting point to the end point, and it also help us to determine where is the bottleneck or breakdown in the process. Like if we having problem during the whole at the end product, for example like the end product of the coffee drinks product, then we have to find out where is the bottleneck and where is the breakdown will causes the impacts on our product. So it will provide a clear picture of what the process look like and shed light on the issue. It also will show the changes in the process. So now I will give an example based on this process flow diagram. First is the raw material extraction. This is coffee bean, and after this is the roasting process. Okay, after the roasting process is the brewing process, we cooking our coffee, and then after that is just the packaging production lah, just for example lah. So if we are having the problem in our, like here, why our product is so bitter, just an example, maybe is the sources for solution here, I mean not the solution, sources problem, or maybe is the roasting temperature like too high or too huge, or maybe is the brewing duration was too long. So if the problem comes from here, then we just find out the solution from here. If the problem come up from here, then we just find the solution from here, or maybe the packaging also. So it's very easy for us to understand where is the problem and just find the solution and then solve it. That's it for it. Then the second tool will be the check sheet. Check sheet will be a basic quality tool that used to help us to collect the data. It also might be used to track the number of the times of a certain incident happens. As an example, a human resources department may track the number of the question by the employees per category per day. In this particular check sheet, the tools will show the total number here, the total number of the question received by the human resources department. So this information will help the department to identify the opportunity to share the information with the employees in an effort to reduce the number of the question asked. So at the same time, it also will help us to list down the important checkpoint like this. Okay, here is the important checkpoint, so we can keep updating and marking the status of the projects, like how many question is asked, so we know like this question might be have the higher chances asked by the employee or what. Now I will move on to the histogram. Histogram is the bar chart picture of data that show the patterns that fall within the typical process condition. Change in the process should be trigger the new collection of the data. Like a minimum of 50 to 75 data points should be gathered to ensure an adequate number of data points have been collected. These patterns that are detected demonstrate an analysis that helps to understand the variation. In this example, it shows that the receptionist received the most phone call about the contribution statement for that periods. So, based on this, we know which is the highest, like this one, the contribution statement is the highest. So we find out which data happened the most, and this have to pay more attention. At the same time, we also can understand the variation, like what's the difference between this and this. Other than that, it also will show the pattern that falls within the typical process condition, like how is the flow, what's the pattern of all the receptionist phone call types. So here come the Pareto diagram. A Pareto diagram is a bar graph of data showing the largest number of the frequency to the smallest. In this example, we are looking at the number of the product defects in each of the list categories. Like when you look at the number of the defects from the largest to the smallest occurrence, it is easy to see how to prioritize the improvement effort. The most significant problems stand out and can be targeted the first. So we can prioritize the improvement effort. We can find out which is have to like pay more attention, and then we have to put more attention on it. And now is move on to the cause and effect diagram. It also can be also known as the fishbone diagram. A cause and effect diagram, also known as a fishbone diagram, it shows the many possible causes of the diagram, like how I mentioned here. So to use this tool, we have to need to first identify the problem, which is the root causes you are trying to solve, and simply write it in the box with the head of the fish to the right. Next, you will list up the major causes of the problem on the spine of the fish here, like how I circle here. And after that, the causes are typically separated into different categories of like people, process, materials, and equipment. The causes are then identified through the brainstorming with the group familiar with the problems. Once all the possible causes are identified, then they can be used to develop an improvement plan, help to resolve the identified problem. So it's based on two concepts, which is find the root causes, and after that deriving their relationship, like the causes and effect. Now here comes to the scatter diagram. Scatter diagram are the graphs that show the relationship between the variable, which is the x-axis, and the y-axis. The variable are often represent like the causes and the effect. As an example, a scatter diagram might show how the relationship between the satisfied volunteer that are attend the orientation training. So like the diagram will show the relationship between the volunteer. I'm drawing this for you. Here is the statistic fraction score. Okay, and now here is the percentage of volunteer attending the orientation. So if the graph is increasing, which means that the higher the percentage of the volunteer, the higher the statistification score. So each of these tools has the unique advantage for certain situations lah. Not all the tools are used for the problem solving. Like for this one, scatter diagram, there are 6 types, which is the linear diagram. Oh, sorry, it's the direct linear, inverse linear, direct circumlinear, inverse circumlinear, inverse linear with more scattering and no relationship. This is the last tool in the 7QC2, which is the control charts. Control chart can be also known as the run chart. It used to plot the data points over the time, and it will give a picture of the movement of that data. This chart will usually demonstrate when the data is consistent, or whether they are high or low outliers in the occurrence of the data. It focus on monitoring the performance over the time by looking at the variation in the data points, and it also will distinguish between common causes and the special causes variation. Usually it will have 3 lines in the control chart, which is the upper control limit, and another one is the center line, and the last one is the lower control limit. So based on this, we will get to know whether our data is still within the range, or for example, we have to determine the industry process, whether it is under control so that it can meet the customer request, or it is over the control limit. Now here comes to the end of this lesson, which is the 7QC2. Each of these quality tools has their own unique advantages for a certain situation, and not all the tools are used for all the problem solving. So once a tool is learned, it can be adapted to different problem solving opportunity. Additionally, as with anything else, using the tools properly will take practice and experience. Simply start using each of the tools, and over time you will become a proficient and great problem solver. So just be familiar and comfortable with all these quality tools so that you can pick the most suitable tool for your problem solving solution.